Welcome back. One final segment of the Sports Buzz. We are proudly at Zaxby's on Fern Valley Road. This is where we do the show every Sunday, and we thank them for having us out here. It's almost the first few times we started doing this, it was like, if I can survive doing a TV show with the smell of fresh chicken fingers on a Sunday, then I can do anything.
The willpower,
and I can
the
do
discipline.
anything.
I don't have the discipline. I had to go sneak a few chicken fingers in between the break.
I told you about my weekend plans. Nick, what did you do this weekend? What did you have yourself a nice weekend? Do anything fun?
Yeah. No,
Obviously, you watched the Cats beat Texas Tech.
Yeah.
You watched Louisville crush Clemson in a beatdown.
Man, yeah.
They honored the
Beat the snot out of
1975
them.
Final Four team, U of L, their jersey game.
Oh, man.
Really, ever since the nightmare that was the infrared jerseys, U of L has really turned up their jersey game, and they
Cardinal
deserve
Bird looked a little evil on their shorts. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's the nightmare bird.
Yeah. But it was good to see him honor Denny Crum. You had Junior Benjamin back in the building. It was a good crowd. It was a really good atmosphere. And Clemson's a good team to do it against, because you know you're going to beat the snot out of them. That team, garbage. And also,
Clemson had some wild jerseys.
Well, yeah. Okay. I can be fine with all purple, but it was all purple, and then they had orange lettering. And they didn't even outline anything. Like, it wasn't like in white or black to separate it. It just was hideous.
I loved it. Great looking jerseys. I'm not a fan of the logo instead of like the name. I don't like that. Kentucky's done it one time too, by the way. They lost by 31 to Tennessee back in 2013.
Look what happened to Arkansas when they did it last week.
And then actually, you're right about that. And Kentucky actually did it in the Bahamas trip, the first one with Karl Anthony Towns and those guys. But I don't love the logo instead of the jersey. But Clemson, if you're Clemson basketball, why not just throw out
crazy?
Like, I'm surprised Bill Walton wasn't out there with how wild and wacky those jerseys
Clemson and
were.
Louisville, two teams that beat the crap out of Duke, because Duke, not good at basketball.
Whoa.
Yeah, I said it.
That's a hot take.
Hey, North Carolina, not good either, but they finally won an ACC game.
They did. They stopped the program's longest ACC losing streak, which is wild to think about because they've been playing ACC basketball for a long time. They end that at 6. The SEC Big 12 Challenge, we talked about it, they end 5-5. Florida gets blown out at home to number 1 Baylor.
So bad.
Baylor probably the real deal, but Florida, what a disappointing season it's been for them. And Kentucky still has 2 games against the Gators, one at home and one on the road in Gainesville.
The team that I think is, I don't know if you would say surprising or not, but LSU, they keep doing this thing where they get down to the wire, they play teams really close, and they find a way to win close games. They just continue over. It's right back to last year.
And they did it last year. We obviously remember the way they won at Rupp Arena. They cheated is what they did. But we remember that was a close game that went down to the wire. LSU reminds me of a little bit of like a Kentucky light. They're led by their guards. They have a good backcourt. Maybe you remember Skylar Mays potentially. They've got a few other guys
Devontae
there.
Smart, I believe,
Trenton Watford. Brother
he's got a
Watford.
wild free throw shot. He kind of like rocks back and forth. It is bizarre, but hey, he knocked down 2 big ones to kind of secure the victory.
They won at Texas. Now
Tennessee,
the Cats will only get 1 game against LSU. That'll be a road game in Baton Rouge.
Tennessee has been perplexing all year, but they hung tough with Kansas, and I think that's going to be the case when Kentucky goes down there and plays in Knoxville in 2 Saturdays, because that's just what Tennessee does. Rick Barnes, good coach, and to see Texas where they're at, like
Shaka Smart probably out.
Rick Barnes doesn't get enough credit for being an outstanding college basketball coach.
Now, Tennessee's had to replace Grant Williams, obviously, and Admiral Schofield. They've got a few returning players. They are starting to play a little better, so that could be a tricky game for the Cats in 2 weeks.
They had a guy retire, too, this year. Or, like, not retire, but he had, like, season-ending shoulder surgery, one of their guards, Bowden. So, like, they got kind of put behind the 8 ball, but they've been able to recover.
They're starting to play better. Hung tough with Kansas. Obviously, Kansas, a few players suspended from that brawl with Kansas State. Let me ask you about this. Kentucky's got 2 games this week. I think it's Vanderbilt on Wednesday. That should not. Vanderbilt, the opposite of undefeated, unwinned.
That's
unwinned
that's
in SEC play. The only team not to have an SEC win. That should be Kentucky should cruise in that game. Don't mess around. Don't do anything funny in that one.
And then it's college game day.
Blow it. It's been a while since Kentucky's just beaten somebody by 20 plus. But then it's college game day at Auburn, a team that ended Kentucky's season last year, and Kentucky beat them by 30 in the regular season.
There's no love lost between these 2 programs.
Are you nervous about that one? It is wild how many Saturday road games Kentucky plays. Their first home Saturday game, not till I think February 15th. Where does this rank in terms of, you're coming off a road trip to Texas Tech, wildest atmosphere. You're coming off a road trip to Arkansas, wildest atmosphere. We know Auburn will be more of the same. Do you think this game is tougher than the Texas Tech game, tougher than the Arkansas game? Auburn, only 2 losses on the season, but they came in the same week, back-to-back blowout losses. I think they're overrated,
Yeah,
but it'll be a tough place to play.
Oh, it's going to be a tough place to play, but I think Kentucky matches up with them much better than they would a team like Texas Tech, who just really wants to grind it up, slow it down. Auburn's going to want to run and gun. I think Kentucky can keep up with that pace, and they've shown the last 2 weeks that they kind of thrive in this atmosphere. Before the game, Johnny Jazane was like, I kind of like being the villain, and I think that's the identity this team's taking on. It kind of reminds me of the 2018 football team that went to the Citrus Bowl and won it. They enjoyed playing on the road. They enjoyed being the bad guys, and I think this Kentucky Wildcats team, they're the bad guys.
Yeah, honestly, they seem to play a little bit better on the road than they do at home. The issue with playing on the road is they give up that big, inspired run by the home team.
Yeah.
And they don't do that as much at home. But at home, I can almost guarantee you, I don't have the stats in front of me. Maybe I'll look it up and I'll put it on the Kentucky Roll Call Facebook page. They have to be shooting from deep better on the road than they are at home.
Yeah.
Was that who did they play this past week at home? Georgia. Anthony Edwards in Georgia. That was a win. We haven't talked about that, but I think Kentucky only made 1-3.
Yeah,
but
1-9,
on the road, Rupp Arena is a tough building to shoot in. So we'll talk more about that next Sunday. Louisville, I'm not sure who they've got this week, but ACC is
not very good.
One of the worst conferences in basketball.
So worst I can ever remember the ACC being.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't even know who the fourth best team is. Florida State, obviously
they're one of the worst
good.
Power 5 conferences, or Power 6 conferences. They're not one of the worst.
But Florida State, they got a win over Notre Dame yesterday. Mike Bray went off. It was pretty hilarious.
About officiating.
I enjoy coaches going off on officials in post-game press conference. Not as much as you, though.
Hey, New Year's resolution. I'm doing pretty good not complaining about officials, but that's what coaches got to do. If it's bad, talk about it. Refs are not untouchable. Literally don't touch them.
Yeah,
but they're not
don't
untouchable
do that. Don't
in
punch
press conferences where you can't talk badly about them, especially these coaches making millions of dollars. Oh, no, you got to pay the fine. Big deal. Nick, we're out of time. Where did the time go?
It flew. Time flies when you're having fun, and that's what we're doing.
Chicken tender o'clock here on the Sports Buzz. He's Nick Roush. I'm TJ Walker. We'll see you next week for a Super Sports Buzz.